We can't gather in person this year, but we've adapted. The 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival brings the best in film from across the globe and around the corner. And this year, it's all virtual, so the films and events are coming directly to you. Join us for the 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival, October 15th through the 29th. More information is at mkefilm.org/MFF.
Good evening and welcome to Day 4 of the 2020 Milwaukee Film Festival presented by Associated Bank. I'm Kara and I am the Artistic Director at Milwaukee Film, and this is the Nightcap, which is presented by the Yabuki Family Foundation. A few housekeeping things before we get to the good parts with our special guests. Reminding you to vote, cast your vote for the Alan H. Budd and Suzanne L. Seelig Audience Awards by visiting the film or the shorts program that you've seen at the page at watch.mkefilm.org. You log in either with your ticket code or with your pass, and you go to the film page, you'll see a button and it says vote here, and that's where you'll click and you'll be sent to a form where you can cast your vote. And we're counting all of them. Make sure you do vote. And please, it's the same rating scale as normal, but please don't tear your computer screen. Really will affect your ability to watch the next film. You've also probably seen that we have a double up challenge happening. Thanks to the generosity of Judith McGregor and Richard Galloon, if we raise $75,000 during the festival, that's now through the 29th, they'll double it. And there's a number of ways you can help support us at this time and contribute to the challenge. You can text double up to 44321. You can go to mkefilm.org/donate. Or if your membership is going to renew or be up for renewal this month, or if you're not a member yet, you can join us or renew as a member this month, and that will add to the total that they will double for us. Please consider supporting us, helping us meet our goal. As of this morning, we were 58% of the way there, which is incredible. You all are incredible. That is why. But we're not there yet. And it would be really sad if we were off to such a fast start and we didn't meet it. So if you got a little bit to give, remember your dollars are doubled, and it's a really good time to help support us. I saw somebody put a heart when I said that. That is the response that I like to see from the social media world. We do love you and appreciate you, and we miss you. We can't gather with you in the theater together, but members help keep us going. They help us fulfill our mission virtually, helping us bring this festival to you and into your homes, as well as to do all of our education programs and other programs that we do throughout the year. We're trying to take those virtually into classrooms, all that good stuff. So, and if you're not yet a member, maybe you've just been moved to come and join us and see what we're up to year round. We give you free movies. It's, it's just one, it's a little thing, but you help keep us going. This evening, we are joined by the director of When Night Falls, which is in our genre queer experimental shorts program, the filmmaking team behind We Don't Deserve Dogs, as well as the director of is in our shorts date night program. Wherever you're watching, throw your questions and comments in the chat. We'll bring them into the conversation, sort of thread them in as they are appropriate. We see them wherever you are, which is wonderful, which is why I can say that, thank you, Mary. Mary says that she misses us as well. We miss Mary and all of you so very much. So it's wonderful to be able to see you on the internet, even though we can't see you in person. Those are the business items. And so I am going to bring in my colleague, Astor Gilbert, our genre queer coordinator. Hi, Astor. And
hello.
Astor will lead our first Q&A.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Kara. And thank you to all of you out there that are watching the virtual fest and donating to the Double Up. We really appreciate it. So with me tonight is a special guest from one of the short films, When Night Falls, which you can see in the Genre Queer Experimental Shorts program. Genre Queer, if you're not already familiar, is a program that explores filmmaking that spotlights LGBTQIA voices and experiences and celebrates the past, present, and future of cinema's rich queer tradition. And now I would like to welcome onto the virtual stage our special guest, one of the filmmakers from When Night Falls.
Hello. How are you, Esther?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm super good. Thank you.
Great. Would you like to introduce yourself and your role in the film When Night Falls to the people out there in digital land?
Yes, so I'm Alexandre Chassard-Dubé. I'm from Canada, and I am the director of When Night Falls, so Quand la nuit tombera. And that's it.
Perfect. Thank you. Now we're off to the races. So I like to start with a basic question, but how did this project come about and how did you get involved in this? Was this a product of your imagination or were you brought on board to this by other filmmakers?
Yes, so maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I happened to go to Montreal, which is like where I am from, where I am now. And I'm from like a small city that is Rimouski. So it was kind of a clash to come to the big city, since I'm from the countryside. And like I had this idea when I went to film school to do a film about all the evolution I went to for meeting my community, because back in Rimouski I was really like I felt alone because I'm gay and like I didn't find my community. So I really wanted to talk about this and to talk about expressing your femininity when you're a man and you're like it's not really perceived in a good way when you're a man to be more feminine. And I think it's really important to be good in your skin and like to just like do whatever you want and everything. So that's really where the idea comes from.
And before we went live, we were chatting a little bit about the production of the film. For those that haven't seen it, the production design of this film is gorgeous. It's very dreamlike. It's very musical, very lyrical. I don't believe there's any spoken dialogue, if I remember.
No,
so
but it
it's
was fun.
So I'm curious to hear about the process of working with the production designer, the costumer, prop master, or maybe that was. I'll just stop there. But what was that process like building this very fantasy-like dream world?
So we were like a really small team for our direction, and I did almost everything with my good partner Alan Park, which is also do like costume design and everything. And we just like had this idea of like doing everything on our own and just like go to the thrift shops and like take as much clothes as we can and just do it on our like with our hands and everything, because we really like to buy stuff and work it out and really like depending of what we find making it. And we had like a main idea of what we wanted, but it's really when we found the clothes that we really decided what it's going to look like. And for the decor, for the set design and everything, we had an idea of we went to rentals places and everything, but we really wanted to do a crazy inside the studio set design with trees, and we even like took real trees from outside to bring inside. So we really were interested in making it look big and to also blend the outside and the inside, because we also shot outside. And it was the best part of the film, I think. Like I feel like I wrote it only to just have fun with the set design and like costumes. That's really what I like. So it was really a cool experience.
That's really fascinating. So was the writing of this script more of like a general idea or a mood, and then it sounds like you just kind of went wild with your filmmaking team?
Yeah, because like I was in the experimental class in university, and I really wanted to play with it, to play with narrative. I didn't want to have like a really like basic narrative and then like just do normal art direction. I really wanted to do something big and, like I said, have fun with it. So I think the most important for me for this project was the visual and the aesthetic, and really have fun with it. That's the only word I got, is like fun, because that was fun. So
no, it's always really great to hear that the filmmaking process was fun, because so often films, and especially younger filmmakers, it's a very difficult process, very time consuming.
Yeah.
So many things can kind of go wrong, which kind of leads into my next question of were there any like surprises, good or bad, that you came across while making this, or maybe issues that you ran into having filmed it in this way?
I think I don't remember. Like it's been like a year and everything. I don't remember anything big like that happened or bad. I just remember that it was like super cold, and like you can see in the film, like the actors, which are also my friends, are not wearing like anything really hot or whatever. They're almost naked also. So it was kind of hard for them, but I was always like, okay, let's take a pause. Let's like warm us up and like go back after. And they were really good. I was really happy about it because they were not complaining, and they were like really happy about like doing this project. So I think that's the only bad thing that happened, but maybe I'll think about it during the Q&A and I'll tell you.
Oh, sure, and it's okay if the answer is no. We do have some we do have some comments and a question from audience. One, it's not a question so much as a comment from Sandra, who said absolutely gorgeous, which I concur. This is a gorgeous film.
Thank you.
And Key to the Planet asks, would you ever make more short films or even a feature set in the same or similar world that you've created in this?
I didn't think about it yet. I think that would be cool. I really like the kind of Renaissance mood, or like really dreamy, like forest themed or whatever. But right now I'm on a project and it's completely different. So I feel like it's going so fast, and ideas like and I'm living stuff that are like different from that. So maybe one day, maybe when I'm gonna be older, I would do something similar. But yeah, for now I'm going completely different.
Awesome. I do want to ask, because I'm always curious, were there any specific influences, whether cinematic, film influences, or other, on the way that you shot this film? Because it recalled for me a couple of specifically queer films, but I'm really curious to hear, like, were you drawing inspiration from specific artists or filmmakers, or was this, were you looking at different art forms to inspire this film?
Yeah, I don't think I had any specific like films or like filmmaker in head. I think I have one, but I just don't remember the name because I'm really bad with names and film names also. But I think mainly for the idea and everything, it was really more of like visual ideas I got, and like just like Pinterest idea I had also. Pinterest is good. It's really the best, like to just organize your idea and stuff. And yeah, I think it's just I had this really specific thing in head, like aesthetic, and I wanted to do a film about it. And I also had this idea of like talking about femininity and talking about like finding your community. So I just kind of put all of this together and then create something. But yeah, I think there's probably a lot of films I saw that kind of inspired some of the moods and everything, but I couldn't tell you exactly which names or specific name yet.
Oh, excellent. That's really fascinating to hear. I'll just throwing out there, the film that came to mind was Kenneth Anger's Rabbit Moon, which has a kind of similar color palette and vibe as like this artificial forest with like queer characters running around in it. But anyway, won't get hung up on that. But I do want to talk a little bit more, or hear your thoughts a little bit more about the way that you're approaching gender in the film. Because as you said, like part of it was this exploration of like exploring femininity as a man or as someone coded as a masculine figure, which is something I really responded to as someone from a small town who moved to a bigger city. Also, shout out to Montreal bagels, which are better than New York bagels, but just saying. But the film kind of has this like fluid gender, almost like non-binary vibe with a lot of androgynous or ambiguous looking manifestations of gender. And I would just love to hear your thoughts more on either the process of presenting that, or what your intentions or motivations were in the way that you staged that in the film.
So yeah, like for me, it was important to show diversity, like in a way that like it's not only men or women. It's like just like a bunch of people in the first place, and it's just, for me, gender for a long time was kind of a hard thing to to live with it. I don't know how to say it, but like, because I've never felt like I was really myself, and like what you see around you is like is that you cannot be anything than like what you're supposed to be. And I felt a freedom when I came to Montreal, and I understood that I can be more feminine if I want. Sorry, I'm like so dry, but like it doesn't matter and everything. And I found people also that were like, F it, like it doesn't matter anyways, and it really gave me confidence. And also I met Six, which is also called Victor, which is non-binary, which is the main actress for the role. And she was like just amazing. Like they show me like a lot of things I didn't know about this, and because it's more of their world. And like this person is extraordinary. Like she's doing everything, like makeup, performance, circus. Like they are really just crazy. And like this person just showed me a lot of like things I didn't know about this, and that was really interesting. And I'm really thankful. Thanks, Victor.
The performance is absolutely wonderful. I'm also curious, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the role that music plays in this film, because with a lot of the experimental shorts that we've programmed in the Genre Queer program, including yours, they're not music videos, but they're not necessarily narrative in the way that they use music to kind of flow through emotions and ideas. And I would love to hear your thoughts on what that role that music and dance and things like that play in the film.
Yeah, it was really important, I think, especially with that project, to do a specific piece of music with the image, because I really like at the beginning of the project I knew what the visual would be. I didn't know what the sound or the music would be. I really discovered it like almost at the end with the composer that worked with me after in post-production, and it was really like I wanted something that feels big, that feels like overwhelming, and like feel the nature also, so natural sound and more of a like crazy ambience and everything. And I'm really happy about the final product. Like Zachary Laro is the composer, and Zachary Ayot also, and they really did a great job. And I think it's just like uplift the feeling of it, so you really feel inside like the scene. And it's just like I feel like it's super important, the sound and music. And I knew at the beginning I wouldn't record any sound. I was like, it's going to be too complicated, it's better without. And so I'm really like, I was really into like finding the feel of the movie and compose it like herself. So yeah.
Excellent. So how has what is the reception to the film? And obviously it's received positively by me, and many audience members that have already seen it here in Milwaukee have told me how much they love it and how beautiful it is. But what have been some of the responses to the film that you've experienced?
I had really good response about it. Like the first festival I went, it was like with Concordia, so my university festival, which I won the Art Direction prize. I was so happy. And after I went to different kind of festival, I went to Ann Arbor. That was like a crazy experience. It was sad because it was supposed to be on live. Like I was supposed to go there, and it's really when everything goes crazy about COVID that it's shut down. But it was really great. And I went to, I think, 8 or 9 festival in total. And I'm trying to put it more in arts gallery. Like I'm trying this thing which I never tried before, to just like show it in a different way, in a different space. And I think that could be a really nice thing to try this year. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. It was I had a good response. I was really happy about it.
Excellent. Yeah, and Ann Arbor is actually where I saw the film for the first time, and shout out to my home state of Michigan. So I guess that kind of answers what my next question was, which is like, what is next for the film? So are you changing it to develop it into like an installation piece, or trying to project it into a more physical space like a museum?
I would be interested into making it like as maybe an exposition or something. For now, maybe the response I had for the gallery is more of a specific room in a art gallery, so it's really immersive.
Mhm.
I don't know it. Yeah, it works. Okay, and so I'm still thinking about it, but for sure that would be nice to have maybe a different way to show it, and maybe like some costume pieces or like set design. But I'm still thinking about it. But yeah.
Oh, that would be
Really
incredible.
Yeah.
It's definitely the kind of film you want to like go through the screen and be
Yeah.
inside the movie. Is how I felt anyway. I can't speak for everyone. So I guess before we run out of time and switch back to Kara, I'd really love to know what is next for you. You mentioned briefly that you're working on a different project that is very different. Are you able to talk a little bit about that, or is it too early yet?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. We're probably gonna shoot it in middle of November if everything goes right. And so yeah, it's completely different. It's more of how can I say hard, like I don't know what to say. It talks about isolation and about the quarantine and the fact that we cannot really kind of see each other and touch each other. So it's all about touch and touching. And I can tell you maybe it's about cruising on the bridge and that kind of, and like some composition with crazy outfits that are inspired from different time. And like, so I'm still in the composition vibe and with like big costumes and stuff, which because I like it. So why not?
I'm really excited to see what happens, and hopefully in the future, we can have you physically in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that would be so great. That would be cool.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here and chatting about your film. Everyone out in the audience, if you haven't seen When Night Falls, it is in the Genre Queer Experimental Shorts program. Do check it out. Be sure to vote. And thank you very much again for being here. And we will switch back to Kara.
Thank you. And I am going to bring on screen with me the filmmaking team behind We Don't Deserve Dogs, which has become a quick favorite in terms of sales and reception, perhaps because it's about dogs.
Perhaps.
Dogs, if you're out there and you have questions or comments, please ask to help transcribe them, or if you have Bark to Text, use that, but please don't try to type them yourself because I am not good at translating that typing that paws do. So the first question, this sounds either dumb or like it's like a obvious answer, but why dogs? How did you embark? Oh, we're gonna have a lot of that. Sort of make this film.
It was actually while we were making our previous documentary. So we were making a film all about barbecue culture around the world. So it's similar kind of style. And we noticed that everywhere we went, there was always a dog present. No matter where you are in the world, there's always a dog just sitting, waiting for like a bite to eat or hanging out with the family. We love dogs as well. We both grew up with dogs. And so, you know, for us, it was a pretty logical next step, I think.
Yeah.
So then the film is globe spanning. You go all over the world, you know, similarly to barbecue, but with the lens set on dogs. I read that you went to 11 different, give or take. Can you talk a little bit about the production process for that kind of global shoot, and each of your roles within that process?
Sure. So it's just the two of us. I produce and record the sound, Matt directs and shoots, and we're a couple in real life. So that makes the traveling component quite simple, really. It's just a matter of, you know, booking some airfares and a hotel. So that side of it's quite simple. In terms of how we determined where we were going to film, we wanted it to be as sort of geographically broad as possible, showcasing as many different people, cultures, and dogs as we could. But we didn't plan them all out in advance. We wanted to have a bit of flexibility with that. And so we would usually go and film maybe 2 or 3 countries, come back, edit, look at what we had, and then research the next set of 2 or 3 more countries. So we were really able to sort of, tailor things as we went along.
Yeah, and I think another thing to point out is we produce this film completely independently, which means we do it on a bit of a shoestring budget, and like Rosie said, we've literally just the 2 of us. So we're the 2 of us, usually a translator in the field, and then we edit the whole thing. The entire film was edited, mixed, everything in this 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. But that also, I think, gives it a real intimacy that I think you can't get with a bigger production. We've worked in the past on bigger productions, and this, imagine this big leviathan of a film production sort of trying to, there was no producer back home that we had to tell them where we were, what we were doing. And an important thing as well is that we didn't have to work out every story that we were going to tell in advance. So as we were collecting stories, each story that we told would inform the next story we try and gather. So I think that gave us a real ability to be responsive, intimate. When we film with people that have usually never been on film before, it's just the 2 of us with a little camera. I think there's a way that you can get an intimacy out of people that you couldn't with, a huge production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have a question in the chat that one part of which is very specific, which is about how much footage you ended up with to kind of edit down. And I'll let you answer that part because the next question is actually really mine.
It's less than it's
really?
It's pretty efficient. We don't overshoot a huge amount, to be honest.
Yeah, especially after Barbecue, and when we shot that, and that film was much more static, and so you would just sort of like sit there and wait for the sun to come down, and I'd end up sort of rolling over reels of film. But with this one, I think we had a much more, and having done that previous film, we sort of knew much more precisely what we needed. That said, huge amount of movement when you're filming dogs. Like the cameras are moving around like crazy and all the rest of it. And so there was just a process of I'll run with this dog for an hour and maybe there'd be a few seconds of usable content. So with those sections of people running around with the dog, that one probably had a little bit of a lower hit percentage.
I know, like, for example, filming with the truffle hunting dogs in Italy, there was just reels and reels and reels because you never knew whether they were going to find something or not. So that was one we definitely shot.
And I remember when the first day we were with the truffle hunters and we asked them through the translator, we said, he was telling us that there's 2 types of truffle dogs, those that like obediently walk by your side and sniff out the truffle, and then those that just sort of like run over the mountains. I was like, which sort do you have? He's like, I have the run over the mountain. Yeah. So you'd sort of go, well, where will the dog go? And he'd go, maybe that way. So I'd sort of climb up the mountain to get the shot, and then the dog would just go the other way. And I'm like, easy come, easy go.
So you had footage that you already knew wasn't like real footage, but then you had gotten really economical, it sounds like, about like knowing the kinds of pieces that you would want, so you could kind of drill down to those very quickly in the edit. The second question that Sandra has ties to mine, which is like, how did you find these specific stories, going from one country to another? Like, do you just, how on earth do you get, because they're so intimate, right? These are such characters. There's so much intimacy of what you find. How on earth do you do that?
Okay, so you start with the internet. You start by just Googling things like dogs in Peru and seeing what results come back. Looking at through Instagram, like I went through. I worked out the hashtag for dog in Spanish and looked at all the Peruvian, Instagram pages full of dogs. And so you start online and you get a sense of what is happening in a particular place. But the most important thing to do is to then speak to people that live there. So in every place we filmed, we would hire a local researcher, and basically we would talk to them, learn about how people interact with dogs in their city or town or country, just get a feel for what life is actually like. And then we would send them out to go and talk to people and meet with people and find people who could be good subjects for the film. And basically the rule was we wanted regular, everyday people. No experts talking in front of bookshelves. That was the rule.
Yeah, and I think, like Rosie said, you can sort of start it with internet research, but the internet can also be very deceiving and very send you down wrong paths. I remember that when we were filming in Chile, we read a few blogs that said that there were these abandoned street dogs everywhere. They were all ones written in English. And then when we started reading them in Spanish, we started realizing, no, that's just something that visitors say. In actuality, these dogs are very well cared for. They're called cultros, and there's actually a whole thing behind what you read. So often, we would there would be this constant development process by, you'd get this germ of an idea. Like Rosie said, it might be a picture you saw. I remember we saw a picture or something about the day of worship of the dog in Nepal, and we're like, oh, we need to know a lot more about that. Let's find out what's at the end of that little germ of an idea, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like a lot like the research project for anything, just but starting with curiosity, right? And then taking it sort of as close to the real stories as you can get before you turn on the camera or spend the money to get there, to know that there's something there. Yeah. What moments or characters were most kind of surprising or inspiring or jaw-dropping? Kind of who's your favorite? Each of you. I hope you don't have the same favorite.
Well, it is a bit hard. It's sort of like picking your favorite child.
Yeah, inspiring. I think it's pretty hard to go past the story of Beanish in Pakistan with her dog Sheru. So Beanish is Muslim. It's against her religion to keep a dog. But when she found the dog injured on the street, she couldn't just leave him, took him in, healed him, and now, of course, she's fallen in love with him, and he's part of her family now, despite the rest of her family and friends telling her that she shouldn't. So that was she was a really inspiring character, and was just so confident and willing to buck the trend and willing to do what she thought was right, rather than, bow into pressure.
Yeah, and I think another one that's stuck out for both of us was filming with former child soldiers in Uganda, and the work they've been adopting these dogs to help them through their own PTSD, and that one was very striking because pretty much these people were child soldiers about 20 years ago, which makes them about our age now. So, it was just a very emotional, and they had this horrific story to tell, but they tell it with their dog by the side, and you could just see the role that these dogs had in their lives. So that one was very, very tough and very demanding to film emotionally, but very inspiring. Yeah, and pretty much all the characters in the film continue to inspire us, I think.
Yeah. I'll say the Uganda portion was the most sort of touching for me, watching in sort of the early days of the pandemic with cats and sometimes a dog. I have an occasional dog, but sort of to sort of think about that, the way that animals kind of help humans sort of cope with trauma or soothe or are emotionally kind of supportive in these ways. That was the one I was like, yes, let me pet this cat. Well, we watched it together. They watched it. The two cats watched the film with me when we were in the program.
That's very generous of them to.
There it is. And they
the cats get a cameo.
Yes, that cameo. The cats would like me to point out that they really appreciated this, the cat nod, and wondered sort of about the choice to not be a cat exclusionist in your filmmaking.
It's funny. I think, we have noticed making this film, you sort of start with is this person a dog person? Because that's going to really change people's interpretation. Everyone seems to be divided a bit into team dog and team cat. But I think we've got it on the numbers. Who's to say?
I am a fan of all warm furry creatures. So I'm there just currently are cats. One's here. He's not wanting to ask his question on screen. One specific choice that initially is kind of disorienting, I think, for human viewers is that you don't kind of orient us to and now we are in this place and this is this person's name or this dog's name. Can you talk a little bit about the choice to not kind of create those markers that human documentary viewers are so very used to?
Yeah. It was a little bit of a reaction out of our previous film where, once again, segmented into countries, and with barbecue culture, it's a very patriotic thing. How we do it here is the story of Armenia or the story of of Uruguay or whatever. And with this one, we just really felt that almost exactly where they are, exactly who they are, their name, that wasn't the most important thing. What was important is who they are, who their dog is, and the immediacy of that interaction. So in a way, it was like a creative decision to sort of remove that element of it so that you can just go from one place to the next and immediately engage with that person, engage with the environment around them, rather than sort of go, well, what are their credentials? Where am I located? So yeah, it was just an idea that to sort of keep the, and it is, I know that a lot of people sort of, it's become a bit of an expectation in documentary that I need a lot of, like, you need, you know, but think about it, when you watch a fictional film, every time a character, you know, when the villain comes on screen, they don't pause and, you know, put up the name of the villain and when they were born. So it was just to keep that flowing narrative through it, I guess.
In keeping with our set of rules, no experts in front of bookshelves and no lower thirds. What's the other word for them?
Yeah, lower thirds.
Yeah. Well, and I think it also, you know, it de-intellectualizes it. It makes it like, so I wanted to know where I was, because I wanted to know, like, what are their religious attitudes towards dogs? What are the, you know, kind of social customs? But quickly I got used to, no, this is actually sort of more, it's less from a human's point of view than it is from a view that is closer to that of the dog. That is like, you know, you don't necessarily know those things. You're just dealing with that sort of immediacy and that sort of empathetic moment between whatever's happening right now. Yeah. So it's a worth discussing choice, I think.
Yeah. Well, one thing that was interesting was we didn't even notice this. We shot the film and edited it, and then someone, I think, reviewing or talking about the film said, "Oh, you don't learn any of the humans' names." And I was like, "Really?" And we like went back and watched the whole film again. I'm like, oh yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, it is the dog's.
That's unconscious. Yeah.
It is the dog's world. It is their story, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah, I guess. Well, in the credits, you might learn their names because you told us you knew their names. But
the dogs' names come first in the credits too.
Yes, the dogs' names are first. Yes, they're the top build. They're the top build.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I want to ask about the choice. It feels very important to go to and include, you know, a moment in a culture that consumes dog meat. You know, did you grapple at all with going there and including this in sort of what is otherwise just, you know, like everybody loves dogs and they live with us in our homes and our people. They're just canine people and not human people. Can you talk about that destination?
Sure. Yeah, it was not an easy call. We, you know, when we started making the film, we found that every time we told someone about it, the first thing they would ask is, are you going to travel to somewhere in Asia and show people eating dogs? Every single time. And initially we didn't know how to answer that question. Then we thought, well, no, if we're making a film, a global story about the relationship between humans and dogs, it would be a pretty glaring omission if we were too scared to take it on.
And I think it does put everything into focus. And, you know, I have an Asian background as well. And so, you know, like, and I also realized that, like, a lot of people don't know anything about it because it's so taboo and because it's such an avoided thing that people want to avoid reconciling with their own practices in life. And so, you know, like eating the question of a lot of people in Asia eating dogs was like a schoolyard joke that was directed to people. You know what I mean? It wasn't that you know, people didn't know anything about it. And so we wanted to approach it in a way that wasn't judgmental and was really just understanding the characters for who they are, what their practices are, and what that is as a broader reflection of this relationship. Because, you know, we have relationships with lots of animals, and dogs seems to be this completely unique one. So we felt that it would have been easier to not include the story, and I know it does. It is demanding viewing in many ways. It's hard to shoot as well. It's very demanding to shoot, but we just felt that, like, it was a more honest story for us if we included it. So, and once again, probably good that we were independent, so that we kind of could just make that decision that we needed to put that in, and just, you know, let that be the decision, I think.
Yeah. were there moments in the edit where you contemplated like, well, we have this, but we're maybe not going to include it, or
I think we were always going to include it.
Yeah.
It was a matter of editing it in a sort of
non-gratuitous,
tasteful way, which I think we've achieved.
Right.
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, and it can be little, like there's a second side to it, which is when you're completely independent filmmakers and you have to get the film distributed afterwards, and like the distribution environment tends to be pretty risk averse most of the time. I think filmmakers that get to be very brave with decisions often aren't. It doesn't matter whether their films get distributed. Like so for us, it was this is our trade and our business, so there were some complex questions around that. But luckily, I think we were able to put that all to the back of our minds and just present the film that we really wanted to.
Yeah, you've made me a good segue to what's next for the film. You're sort of traveling the virtual festival circuit, having not premiered at South by Southwest.
Yes.
But you made the sort of like shelve it, but to sort of move forward, put it out into the world. Are you still seeking distribution? Do you have anything to share on this front?
No, it's still seeking distribution.
It's not the best time to try and get a film out. Not going to lie, it's been pretty challenging. And
but yeah, we did have basically when South by Southwest cancelled, we just put the film on ice for about 6 months, and then as it became clearer and clearer that this situation isn't going to resolve anytime soon, then we decided let's start participating in online festivals. It's better for people to be seeing the film, for it to be going out to an audience, than it's sitting on the shelf not being seen. So yes, we have started doing virtual fests in the US, but it has also started screening at some real life in-cinema festivals. It's screened in Brisbane, Australia, and in Warsaw, Poland in the last week or so. And that was really cool to hear from people who were in those cinemas and describing how the crowds reacted and things like that. So we are getting now some of that feedback from a more traditional viewing, which is nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. We've been some people have reviewed the film. People are watching it at virtual festivals. We're sort of getting this trickling of really positive feedback for it. So yeah, it's a little bit of a frustrating one because we would have loved to have shared it with people in real life, and we ourselves have not even seen it on a big screen yet. We've not seen it on anything bigger than our TV. So some people have, and maybe one day we'll do one of those rent a whole cinema for yourself thing they're doing, and just watch it anyway.
I was going to say, you're in New York. I know some people who have cinemas that we might be able to work something out there. Private, whatever. And New York has plenty of cinemas, and they're
they're sitting there.
Yeah, they're sitting there. They should be there. They should be available for filmmakers to watch their own movies on. Absolutely.
I will say the virtual festivals do allow dogs to watch, which most dogs are not allowed to go into cinemas. So there is
true.
that.
I think some people have sent us photos of them watching it with their dogs, and there's lots of. I think there's it does allow for a intimate viewing, and I think the virtual festivals allow people that maybe don't normally go to festivals to watch films. So there's all these sort of different ways of outreach. So we're just sort of working our way around all that at the moment.
Yes, we'll try to get, the whatever kind of word is useful to kind of build that momentum to help it connect to more audiences. That's really the goal. So barbecue, you've looked at barbecue. You've now looked at dogs. What's your third film going to look at that's pretty much
not too sure. I mean, it's a great time to be filmmakers that travel, isn't it? Like, we're just really lucky that we finished this film before all the craziness began. Because if we had this film like half finished, we probably wouldn't be able to finish it for about 10 years. Or something like that. So for us, we're not too sure at the moment, But once again, these sort of changes being forced upon us, or like we grapple. We love telling these big global stories that draw together common ideas across cultures, but then we miss the opportunity to be incredibly intimate and stay with someone for an extended period of time. So we might go more into that sort of stuff. So,
but one thing we're quite sure of is that we don't, and I'm sure plenty of people are going to make great films about the coronavirus, but we're not going to be one of them. So I feel like, particularly with documentary at the moment, avoiding COVID in your storytelling is practically impossible. So I think we might wait a little while before pulling cameras.
Yeah,
out.
and I think it is part of because we love celebrating community and gathering and all of that in our films, and it's not really happening for us at the moment. And like I know, and I think filmmakers are going to each respond to it in a different way. I was just watching the last interview with Alexandra, and he's going to solve that problem and deal with the issue of intimacy and touching. We're going to wait and we're going to come back to it later. We know some filmmakers that are making films very directly about COVID. So not quite sure yet. Just plenty of time to think about it, though, I guess.
Yeah, and to do that research to figure out like where do you want to go and what you can plan your next 4 films.
Yeah,
That's true.
that is true.
Well, thank you both Matt and Rose for being here with us, for sharing your film with Milwaukee, and we will continue to follow its story and hope that it gets out to more audiences.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Wish we could have been there.
Yeah.
We'll come visit next year.
Yeah. Your next film, make a film about beer or cheese. That's what we love here. We love lots of things in Milwaukee. I'm going to bring back Astor for our final interview.
Hello.
Sure.
It is mostly beer and cheese. That is correct. Hello, everyone. So now we move to our third and final special guest. Well, I guess third segment. From the film Single, which is part of the Date Night Shorts program. So if you haven't seen that, do check it out. And please welcome virtually our special guest.
Hello.
Hi, Ashley. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am well. I guess to kick things off, would you like to introduce yourself and the role as filmmaker in the film Single?
Yeah, I'm the writer-director of Single.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I guess to get things started, how did this film come to be? How did you get involved with it?
Yeah, so this project was actually produced through the AFI Directing Workshop for Women. So I had to come up with a short. I had already made 2 shorts prior, and I was born with a disability, a rare bone disease, and I really wanted to do a film that incorporated disability in some way and would discuss it and bring up topics to talk about. And I ended up going to a kind of a retreat. It was like my first time really getting to know people in the disability community, because I think for 30 years of my life, I was kind of separated from it. I had a lot of internalized ableism, and just coming to terms with that part of my identity was a very long process. But once it started to happen, I got introduced to different communities, and one of them is called She Lift. And I went on this like camping trip, and it's a bunch of different women who are really cool and just people I'd be friends, even if they didn't have different disabilities. And so it was not one of those like forced things that I think I was always worried that it would be. But the huge topic that we always discussed was dating and how complicated it is. Just in general, when you have a disability, and how you talk about it, and the different scenarios that can happen. And so I wanted to create a story that, talked about having a disability and dating, but also confronting your own insecurities and how you take them out on other people when you're not okay with who you are.
Thank you for that. That really opens the door to get into the meat and potatoes of the film. One of the things that really struck me about the short, which is great, by the way, and also to everyone out in the audience, do check it out, is that obviously the film is this 2 people with disabilities set up on a blind date. But what really struck me about it was how kind of complex and messy these characters are, especially the main woman. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on the process of writing those characters and why you wrote them in that way. And one last note, and then I'll shut up, is I often find, as the queer film programmer, is often films that feature less well-represented populations, marginalized or minoritized groups. A big issue I see is a lot of times in short films and early films is the characters are like perfect. They're perfect representations. And so it really struck me that they're kind of messy. And, she says and thinks some things that are not problematic, but it's like, oh, okay, this is like a fleshed out human being, not just some perfect example of a person with a disability. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that in writing that character and working with the performers. And I'll stop talking now so you can answer.
Yeah. I really wanted to, start thinking about representation on a bigger scale. And the reason I probably had so many issues identifying with disability is because what is out there and the narratives that are out there about disability are very one note. It's very, a narrow narrative. And I wanted to write something that really humanized a person. Most of us are very complicated and messy. We have likable things about us. We have unlikable things about us. And I really wanted to have a character who was messy. That's probably the best word to describe her. And it was really fun, creating this character. And then when I met Delaney, once we landed on casting her, we just had a really long phone call about, the issues we've dealt with, and then also the insecurities, and how, I would ask her, like, how would you feel if you were set up with someone who had the same difference or disability as you? And she was like, very offended. We were kind of on the same page about, I think when anyone is distilled down into one category, that doesn't feel good. So you want to be seen as like a very, complex person. And the script has had a lot of different iterations. It kind of first read like a play. And then one of my friends, who was my casting director as well, she asked me if Kim's character was actually telling the truth in this very first scene about, or the second scene about how they're incompatible and they have all these different traits of, are you a night person or a morning person? And she's always opposite of him. And she asked me, is she telling the truth? And it always was just they were opposites and it was a bad match. But that kind of took the script to another whole layer of maybe she's lying and she can't get over this one, thing and issue because she's actually, insecure with herself. And a lot of it drew from my own experience of having a disability. And I've done a lot of dating and, now happily married, but it's been a journey and the different types of things I experienced. And I did go on one date with a guy where I was kind of initially pursuing it, but he had, different fingers, and so do I. I mean, it's very, we had kind of similar ways that our disabilities affected us, but I could not focus on this date because I was so worried about what people were thinking of us, and that was at a point in my life where I was not very open about my disability. I was just not, I couldn't really come to terms with it. And I was like, I don't think I can date this person because I'm so focused on like everything that's happening and every person we interact with, where this guy was just so comfortable and nice. And so I kind of took that and put it into a more, fun story to witness and kind of see she's opening up, about these ideas and really confronting why she feels the way she feels.
Thanks. Yeah, that's so that leads me to ask, what has the reception of the film been? How have people received this character and the narrative?
Yeah, I mean, are we back?
Oh, did we freeze a little bit?
Yeah, I freeze. I think it might be me. I freezed a little bit for a second.
Okay, it's a little blustery where I'm at, so it might be affecting the internet. Okay. Thanks for bearing with us, folks, while we deal with virtual difficulties. Are we back, Ashley?
Yes, I think we're good.
Perfect. So what I was asking was, how has, building off what you just described, what has the reception of this film been? And I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, it's been really good, and it's been really exciting to have these discussions with people who have never really interacted with anyone who has a disability, and then people who are disabled really cheering for this character, and they love that she's bold and sassy and doesn't take anyone's. She has all these microaggressions towards how people act towards her and pity her, and it's just been fun because it starts up a conversation about things that aren't happening, out there. So I've had a really, it's been a really fun like festival run and a lot of different Q&As. And, I think it's just really powerful when people see some portion of their story told, even if they are super different than Kim. There's something about it that resonates, and all these little things throughout the film of people staring at you at the grocery store, or people offering to do things when it's very much, they pity you, or saying you have such a pretty face, or all these little things that happen to people if you have like a visible disability. Things like this happen to me like every time I go out, so it's a very, and then other people who aren't disabled will realize, will say something like, does this actually happen like this, and you're like, oh yeah, and it's nice to let people know in a fun, entertaining way, and I've really kind of fallen in love with telling things through a comedy lens to then get people to open up, and then kind of take in the bigger message and just different ways that people, would discriminate. Like Jake's mom telling him to hide his hand in every picture is one of those things kind of at the end that the person you'd least expect to, be judgmental towards someone is their own son when it comes to a disability, but that happens.
Definitely. And I think what's for me, another thing that struck me with the film is that often you're talking about these like microaggressions, and in a way, like the narrative of the film is littered with these nonstop microaggressions. And towards the beginning of the film, as a non-disabled viewer, I didn't recognize them until there's the twist and you see the character's reaction to these other people. And then by the end, it's like you're more in line with her perspective of like, yeah, these people are like, that's not good what they're doing. and the film is representing that. We do have a question from the audience from Sandra asking possibly expanded into a feature film.
Yeah, I've been asked that a lot, and there's nothing really like concrete in the works, but there's a little bit of the sentiment of the character that, there's a potential TV show that's happening. There's, this film has really opened up a lot of doors to, multiple things that are kind of happening right now. But nothing like Kim and Jake continued yet. So, it is kind of a fun story to think about if she did, after she threw that egg in the elevator, if she went up and hung out with him on the roof, or maybe they realize they're neighbors. That could be really, interesting or funny, or a new coworker or something. Just putting them together, you kind of want to see what would happen, and them as actors, they had such great fun chemistry that, sometimes they'd even be improvising and I'd just be like, let's roll, or say exactly what you guys were just talking about, and let's go again. Cause I love these conversations that are really authentic.
Awesome. Yeah. The people demand answers. They need to know what's going on with these characters. But that, how you describe that brings me to another question that you kind of touched on earlier, is your process as a filmmaker seems very collaborative in how you not only create the characters, but the actual drama of the story. Was that unique to this short film, or is that more of your style in general as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I think I was more double checking that the story aligned with them, because I think I come up with this, I usually draw very personal from personal experience. I mean, there are elements of Kim that are me. There are many elements that are my inner, it's almost cathartic. You're letting out this inner kind of like anger, when I would never do that in real person. I would never throw something at a woman at a store. But, I think there's a lot of us who go, sometimes you wish you could, but it's more in your mind, and I've learned so much just to ignore those things. So, but, as far as filmmaking, I love getting actors to connect with it, authentically. And that's where, we had a lot of conversations with Delaney, who played Kim, and Jordan, who played Jake, just about them growing up. And they, had different experiences than me. I mean, there's people across the disability community have so many different experiences, but I wanted to really know the things that really stuck out to them as, either where they felt, discriminated against, or something happened that made them feel othered. Delaney told me that her professor, when she was going to university, he not professor, it was like a mentor or someone when she was picking her major and going into acting. They said, I think it's really great that you're studying like theater and acting, but you're probably not going to work because of your arm. And like at that level, someone's telling you don't do it, and the film industry is so hard anyways, where it's knowing that was really interesting of how she's like pushed past these things. And then, with Jordan, he would tell us things about how when he was on a baseball team, he was a pitcher and everyone stopped the entire game because he would have to like switch mitts. So he could only use, when he'd throw the ball with his hand and then put the mitt on the hand, he was like doing a switch thing in the middle, and like the other coach of the other team stopped the whole game. They had to have like a conference about it. So it's just kind of knowing those things and trying to, filter in that sentiment in places, and adjusting the script a little to make it really personal. I do love doing that, as with the actors, because I think it only helps then their performance. They really connect and it feels kind of real.
Fascinating. Well, whatever the process, it definitely worked, because the performances in the film are excellent. And
thank you.
It's also a testament to your filmmaking that you really feel a fleshed out world beyond the 14, 15 minutes of the short, which really remarkable. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We are just about out of time, so I do want to give space to ask you, what is next for you? Is there another project in the works that you can talk about? Or if not, what's next for Single, the film?
Yeah, Single is close to being kind of on the end of its festival run. I have some other projects in development. I'm in pre-production on one right now that we're going to shoot here in Canada in November, which is it has a disabled lead. It's a kid. It's a period story. It's very fun, and we have a really exciting team and things. All came together for this. They're not letting me announce anything yet because they're it's for a filmmaker program, but they're kind of still figuring out their PR for it. But it's been probably the biggest, most exciting thing I've done yet. So it's underway, and with COVID, it's a whole new world where everything's been virtual, and interviews for heads of department are virtual. We're having to get COVID tested 3 times a week. So it's, it's exciting, but I'm glad that something's happening during this time, because there's nothing better than being in production on something. So.
Definitely. Having a creative project has been a lifeline in this time. Well, thank you very much, Ashley. I really appreciate you taking the time both to share your incredible film and to speak with our audience.
Thanks so much.
And with that, folks, we will wrap it up here. Thank you so much for tuning into the Nightcap. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night as well, or catch this on replay. So check out the films that we talked about today. When Night Falls can be found in the Genre Queer Experimental Shorts. Single can be found in the Date Night Shorts. And of course, We Don't Deserve Dogs. This is Beef signing off for Milwaukee Film. Have a great night, everybody.